O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. David, I brought this up to George a couple days ago, and I had no idea that you guys were covering Adam Gase Part 2.
God. Is that where we're at now? Making the cross sport local comparisons here?
We're in the off season now, bro. We're not in the Eastern Conference Finals. I didn't have the pleasure of watching the Panthers take down the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 1 like the Rangers did in that game. By the way, and they're really good at blocking shots too in that final game the other night. So I hope the Panthers were watching that one. No, but I was watching the season-ending press conference from Blvd, and my man's got Adam Gase. Now, Adam Gase had crazy eyes. He has crazy intense eyes. It's like they're different kind of eyes,
Okay.
but they're the kind of eyes that I don't want to be on the flip side of those eyes. I just want you to know that. So I don't even know how you ask that guy any questions, because he'll look at you like, and then you're like, wow, did I piss him off? Like,
Yeah, he's an intense dude.
Can you give him a Sean's gonna he's gonna chime in with a little Bill here. Bill shocked with the response of, I don't know, David Dwork's question, which would be this. Go ahead. Right there. Okay. David, how could you ask that? How dare you?
It's funny because like he looks so intense and like he'll give you that, but like I love when Bill Zito speaks just because he's so thoughtful and he'll give you a good answer. Like he'll think about it and he'll give you a little awkward pause.
Oh, he's good.
He'll really give you, he'll give you an honest answer, which is a lot more than a lot of people in his position. But yeah, that's a little creepy. And I love Bill Zito. I don't want to insult Bill Zito at all, but when you first brought up Adam Gase, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Oh, you didn't?
Now
I
kind of see it
here. You had no idea we were going here.
Maybe my brain just wants me to keep it so professional that it won't let me go there and have a little fun.
Well, we gotta have some fun with this. These are memes ready to happen.
That's not my department. I do GIFs. I don't do memes.
That last space was like Panthers out of the playoffs. That's what that was right there. That last space there.
Imagine having a camera on him during the Tampa series.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. Just
if looks could kill.
Yeah. That's that was intense right there. All right. So talk to us. When is the decision made on the interim head coach? What happens with Brunette?
I am hearing that those wheels are in motion right now. That there was a little bit of a pause once the season ended, just so they could kind of get their shit together and collect their thoughts, and it's understandable.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean that's not something that they want to wait on, based on what I've been told. Whether it's to get them the opportunity to prepare for the offseason with Bruno in check, or and this is kind of the big question about the decision: how much change are they willing to invoke on this team ahead of next season? Because bringing in a new coach, I would bet that means they're bringing in a new philosophy too. Otherwise, if you want to keep if you want to keep the train moving the way it's been going, keep the guy in place who had a really good season, brought this team to a point that they had never reached before. Granted, the playoffs, that was a disastrous end. But just like what the players would learn, you would expect the coach would learn as well. If they want to keep employing the same style of hockey, then I think you get Bruno back in there and you roll with him. If they want to make a change, if they want to maybe see more defense, if they want to see a team that defends differently, if they weren't happy with the attacking style, if they weren't happy with the special teams, which was being run by Bruno, they need to make a change. And the change is going to come sooner rather than later, just because options are going to start getting plucked out of the tree left and right. There's a lot of good names out there right now. That's not going to stay the case for a while. And I will say one other thing, and I know this is something that you and I have kind of touched on off air. Zito's never picked a head coach. He's picked this team. It has his signature all over it, but he hasn't handpicked his head coach yet. So is Bruno his guy? We're going to find out in very short order.
So before I ask you about Bruno, what would you do with the style? Is it defensive enough? Is it too offensive? How do you look at it? Should they tweak their style?
I think there are tweaks to be made. I don't know if it's a whole nother coaching style, if it's a whole nother outlook, like, new systems and all that.
Tweaks player, tweak not system. What you're saying?
Because look at Tampa, look at Washington. Neither of those are defensive teams, but they showed up in the playoffs as defensive teams. They switched something, and they did a really good job against Panthers. So that tells me maybe it's not so much personnel. Maybe it's not. It's just these players are going through it right now. They're learning. They had to learn what it takes to win, right? So they had a great regular season. Now they have to learn what it takes to win in the playoffs, because it's a completely different animal. And you can talk about it all nonstop ad nauseum. Until you are in the mix, until you are in that trench living through it, you don't know. So I'm thinking these guys are learning as they go. How much do you want to shake it up is the question.
Where do you lean on the cliche that people will tell you, and you're way smarter than I am in hockey, that, yeah, Panthers had a great offense, but they didn't have the offense for the playoffs. The playoffs is a different monster, and they weren't prepared for that different monster. That style of play will not survive. And something, to me, it's not so much their offense, or maybe they overcommit on offense and then they expose themselves on defense. But to me, their problems is more on defense than it is. I mean, their offense is amazing. So it's not like, I don't know how the offense can be a problem. So explain to me when somebody says that their style of hockey was great for the regular season, but it doesn't fly in the postseason. So do you agree with that theory? Is it accurate? Is it off? How should we view that?
I think it's comes down to a lack of options. I think they did something really well during the regular season. They played a rush transition game where they would pick up the puck, whether it was in the neutral zone, whether the defensive zone, and they were gone. That's why, they would get burned sometimes on their zone exits, because it was an instant offensive push. And if it doesn't work out, then suddenly the puck's back in your end. But They did that to perfection during the regular season. Maybe they weren't ready to have that shut down on them in the postseason. We saw them kind of adjust against the Capitals. I think against Tampa, it was kind of a combination of Tampa shutting things down defensively in the neutral zone, which we saw the Capitals do well. Tampa sacrificing every part of their bodies they had in the defensive end to block shots.
Yeah.
And also the big X factor in that series was Vasilevsky, the goalie, because it's not like the Panthers weren't generating opportunities. It wasn't like they weren't getting shots on goal. They weren't getting chances in the danger areas. Maybe not to the extent that they did during the regular season, but they were getting their chances. Game 1, for the first 2 periods, they looked good. Game 2, pretty much the entire game was neck and neck. Game 4, another neck and neck game. Game 3, they were good in the first couple of periods as well. It was tight. So it wasn't like they were getting blown out of these games until late. And I think maybe that would come in with frustration of trying to do something well that you did all season. It wasn't working in the playoffs. Now, again, I don't know how much of a personnel issue it is, because their roster is stacked. Even on the defensive end, they've got great players back there. They've got guys that know how to defend. Are they good at scoring? Sure, but it's not like you're going to be an NHL defenseman and not know what you're doing in your own end. I think that they just weren't maybe, and this could be a coaching thing, weren't prepared for, shifting gears during the playoffs, which clearly they needed to do.
Or they weren't wired that way in order to do it.
Well, if that's the case, which it wouldn't surprise me if it's just kind of, again, this should just be me, but I'm somebody who, you could tell me something 10 times face to face. Until I learn it the hard way, I'm not going to make those adjustments. I'm a stubborn person. I don't know how much that would apply to hockey, but I just know that for a lot of people, you got to learn something on your own. You got to fall on your face. Not a lot of people can just take advice and go with it and just take it like, okay, sure, whatever you say, I'm going to go with it. So the Panthers, again, this metaphor has gotten a little off the rails, but the Panthers, I think learning on the fly is something that can't really be put into like a metric. But just looking at Tampa, our closest rival, look at all the series they had to lose, all the controversy that John Cooper had to go through before they finally got to where they wanted to go. And it wasn't just that 4-game sweep the year before they won the cup when they got swept by Columbus. They went to the finals a couple years before that and lost. They went to the conference finals a couple times before that. They went through a lot of adversity before they became what they are. So anybody thinking that the Panthers were just going to show up and be amazing and roll through the playoffs, I mean, it's a little bit of a naive, viewpoint just to think that way.
You're right, but a lot of people were talking about like they couldn't make it to the cup, right? And then here's the other thing. It's that Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad have been here for so many years now, And I think that's what it is. It's like, all right, well, we keep waiting. Oh, we got to wait another year that they're going to figure it out. And so I think that's what it is. We're not a patient society. And
Well,
since you've been selling us Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad every year, and what is it? At least 6, 7, 8 years now that they've been here, something like
yeah.
that, right? Easily. That's where it gets to a point where people look at it and they go, "Well, dude, if he was playing basketball or football, he should be either a star or he's just not the guy." And in the end, I'll say this. This is what I wanted to ask you. When I look at Tampa, I saw a lot of sacrifice. When I watch the Rangers in the last couple games, I see a lot of sacrifice. Yeah, they've got guys that can be stars and can score, and their goalies are playing really well, but their defense is desperation to the max, and they will create a force field around their goalie to try to make it as easy as possible for him and as hard as possible for the opponents to get through all those layers. Are the Panthers as committed to doing those kind of things that I see from the Lightning and the Rangers here in the last couple of weeks and watching the playoffs?
I think in the defensive zone, I saw them shift late in the season in the playoffs to playing much better. And I think that's part of why Bob looked so good late in the season in the playoffs. Because it wasn't like Bob wasn't giving up the rebounds that he has been known to give up. They were clearing that shit out really well. The high danger areas, they were best I've seen them do in years. Now, in terms of sacrifice, in terms of shot blocking, in terms of sacrificing your body and those things, yeah, they could do that a little bit better. But you can say that about a lot of teams in the playoffs. It's, again, whether it's a mental thing, a learning thing, that's something that I just, look at the eye test. You're seeing other teams do it and the Panthers didn't. So defensive,
I almost feel you don't do it and you don't sacrifice because you know you're so good offensively, and
that could be it.
you've leaned on that offense all year long. And by the way, it came through all year long during the regular season. And so now oh, feet don't fail me now, that whole thing. Well, offense failed me now.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like there was a little more finesse than the blue collar. In other words, they needed a little bit more of those 96 Panthers mixed in there with the blue collar stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when your back goes against the wall and when they're going at stuff, you're gonna probably go back to what you know best and what you succeeded with best, and that's looks like it's what they did in the playoffs. That they got pushed pretty hard, they got punched in the face, which maybe they got a couple of jabs during the regular season, but they always came back with haymakers and won the games. In the playoffs, it was a little bit different,
Right.
and yeah, they didn't do what you saw other teams doing. Washington, I mean, they put it on the line. They played a completely different style than we saw them do during the regular season. They knew that they were a lesser team, and they almost won that series. They came this close to an empty net goal in Game 5 that would have put Florida back, or Game 4, whatever it was, that would have put Florida back 3-1, and maybe they don't get out of the first round. So I think a lot of lessons need to be learned based on their, from their playoffs this year. Will it happen? I think so. They're young, they're hungry, they're smart. And we've seen them learn. We've seen them improve over the last few years. Look at how good they were this past season compared to the first two. With this regime, with this coaching staff, obviously the head coach changed, but it's been the same guys, the same systems for the last 3 years now, and they've gotten better every year. No reason to think they won't continue to do that next year. And with that in mind, it sets them up pretty nicely, especially when you think about all the players that are coming back. Like they're still going to be super stacked next season.
Yeah, you hope they take that next step. You know what I mean? The problem.
Oh yeah,
I think this was catastrophic for them in a way, because the fringe fan, the borderline guy, you're not gonna you didn't win them over. They looked at it and said, "Same old Panthers," is what they saw. That's what they saw in the second round. That's not impressive to them. If they would have made a deep run into the Eastern Conference or even get to the finals, I think that would have created the buzz for the average fan, the one that is not even, that doesn't know hockey too well and all that. The people that I saw get in on the fence in 96, you didn't win those people over. And that's the only thing that I feel bad for the Panthers going into next season, that they're still going to have the hardcore, but they did not get over that threshold of trying to be some kind of a household name in South Florida. And the only way you do that is by having impactful success in the playoffs. And that's the one thing that I will say I think will set them back going into next season. They've got to cross that threshold before they really get to have the success that they want to have.
Well, yeah, I think the threshold you're talking about is becoming like a mainstream South Florida sports team.
Yeah.
And that's a tough egg to crack. I do think, and you're right. That group of fans, you've got to do something exceptional and you've got to do it consistently for you to get their attention.
Yeah.
That is 100% true. I will say, however, if you're talking about, like, let's say categories of fans, you've got your hardcore fans that have been there forever. You've got your fringe South Florida fans that only follow the winners. There's a middle group. And I think that middle group of fans paid attention when they won all the games during the regular season. I think that's why you saw really big crowds for regular season games towards the end of the year. I think they've gotten over a hump. Did they get over the big South Florida sports fan hump? No. They'd probably have to go to the finals and then some before you really start winning over those fans.
Yeah,
a couple
of deep runs, a couple of years of deep runs, and I think you will convince them.
Yeah, and look, that may not happen because that's something really hard to do in sports. They've positioned themselves to where they've got a roster good enough,
but they got
stars. But
they got to do it. Viola and Sifu have spent so much money. Those owners deserve it, bro. They've done everything that Mickey has done to establish basketball in this town. They're doing the same damn thing. What they're doing over at War Memorial is just, that's unheard of, dude. No, I don't think any other owner that would have bought that team would have ever even done that, what they're doing. So they're doing stuff to entrench themselves into the community, and they're doing everything to sell the crap out of hockey. Ultimately, bro, the players have to sell it for them. That's why this move with the coach, so I'll put you on the spot. If they're going to cross that threshold, is Brunette the guy, or should you go get the experienced guy? Because there's a lot of people that have already told me, dude, if Coach Q was there, they would have played harder. They would have played better. They would have sacrificed more. Coach Q would have gotten more out of those guys than Brunette did. And I'm not smart enough to know that, but I am smart enough to know this. If you are a proven coach, players will go through walls for you because they know that what you've done worked before. With Brunette, nobody knew because he had never been here.
Well, when you're a proven coach, you've been through the ringer a few times, so you know what to tell your players when they get to those situations, when they get into those, backs against the wall times in the playoffs. Brunette, he hasn't done it yet. He's a new coach. He's got to learn along the way, just like, and going back to Tampa, just like John Cooper was when they started to be a good team and they started to make their first playoff runs. He was learning on the fly too. They stuck with him, and now he's a premier coach in the NHL. So the Panthers could certainly do that with Brunette because he's shown not only that he can succeed with the roster, but that they'll play for him. They love him. I mean, if you were watching Zito's press conference at the end of the year, you're probably watching a lot of what the players said that day too. Every single one of them, to a man, spoke about how much they enjoyed playing for Bruno, how much he got out of the team. Guys were saying how they love going to the rink every day, which is, something that doesn't usually happen. It ebbs and flows, but guys were just happy all year. Look, at the end of the day, the results are what matters. And the result was a 4-game sweep in the second round. Is that good enough to give this guy a second chance at least and to let him and this team grow together?
Oh, that's the question.
That's the question. Otherwise, you hit the reset button, maybe. Can a guy hit the ground running? Can you hire a Barry Trotz or a Paul Maurice or, whoever established coaches are out there and they could hit the ground running? Sure. But Bruno's already here, and he's got the respect and admiration of his players, and we've seen that they could succeed. So it's just a question of how much does Bill Zito want to rock the boat, and how much do they potentially want to change styles with this team? Because if you're going to keep things the same, you should keep the same coach, keep the players happy, and let them try to grow together. That's my take on it.
Rangers or Lightning?
Oh, God. Goals. Give me more goals, man. Last night I think I might be the only person who took the over in that game. Just because, looking at the Rangers, they started scoring more and more as their last series went on. They were finding the net more. Look, the Panthers, they struggled to score in the Washington series. So the struggles against Tampa were kind of like, okay, you kind of saw it coming a little bit. With the Rangers, they're trending in that direction. And to see what they did last night, to see the way that they just throw the puck at the net every chance they get, which is something I've been screaming for the Panthers to do more for years. More one-timers, more shots, throw it at the net when you're not doing it. And look, they scored 1 billion goals this season, being the pass-happy, fancy, fun team, cute team that they are. But I think watching what's happening in the playoffs right now, watching how some of these goals are going in because the pucks are on stick blades for less than a second, quick pass across the slot, shot on goal, shot towards the net, deflections happen, rebounds happen, pucks to the net. And this is a goalie telling you this. We're moving around a lot back there. Catch us off guard. Catch us with our feet moving. That's what you saw with Vasilevsky last night. How many of those goals was he set in place for? None.
Right.
He got beat on the move every time.
Yeah, they had him moving. Yeah.
Yeah, and to answer your question, let's go Rangers.
Okay. All right. Oilers or Avalanche?
Oh, I mean, got to be Avalanche. Avalanche, and probably in 5 or 6, just because you need a goalie to steal you, maybe not a game, but at least steal you a period or a sequence in that series. And I love Mike Smith to death. I've been a fan of his throughout his career. He is a crazy big butterfly goalie that I love to watch, but Colorado is just too good, and he's just not that guy. So I think it'll be Colorado, probably Tampa, just based on what they do. But I love what I saw from the Rangers last night. If they can keep doing it and they can keep that goaltender on the move, it could be a fun, long series. And I'd love to see Rangers Avalanche in the final.
Yeah, Avalanche are loaded, bro. And Avalanche, by the way, is a great investment also in crypto. So,
but just FYI, their starting goalie is not playing tonight. Darcy Kemper got hurt last game, and Pavel Francouz is starting for them today. So that might be what Jared Bednar, the Avalanche coach, looks like after getting that news. But so it should make it interesting. At least it levels the playing field a little bit more for tonight's game.
All right. Appreciate it as always, my brother. What are you working on at WPLG so folks can check you out?
Right now, it's exploring the question that you asked me right off the bat. It's trying to figure out exactly what the Panthers are doing with their coaching situation and getting ready for the offseason. I mean, we talked about it last week. Free agency starts the second week of July. The draft is before that. And Bill Zito, he's going to be busy. And you might not think so. The Panthers don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a lot of cap space at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Bill Zito doing a little wheeling and dealing over the next month and a half.
They need to shake it up, bro. You got to shake it up. You got to tweak that roster a little bit.
Tweaks. I would expect some pretty decent tweaks, maybe.
I mean, I'm not smart enough. I don't know the free agency stuff, but if I can get a star and I can trade Huberdeau for a star to put next to Barkov, I would.
I wouldn't expect anything like that.
I'm just saying they don't have a son of a bitch on that team. They don't have one, and they need one. They need a guy that will not be denied offensively. They need a guy that is hungry to score goals all the time.
They need an alpha.
We've
been saying that for a long time. As often.
I know, but we were saying that, hoping that one of these two guys would turn into that, and they're not. And that's the thing. And Barkov, you can't get rid of because he's so damn skilled on both sides of the damn ice. You have to keep.
Nobody's getting rid of Sasha Barkov. He's a globally good player.
Right. But Hubie's the guy.
You can't put in his mind. If you could just put like an Alex Ovechkin brain into Sasha's mind, if you could give him that alpha gene, and he just shot the puck a quarter of the time that he doesn't now, it would be a game-changing thing. But I think, we're just kind of wishing and hoping. Like, these are people too. We can't change their personalities.
No, you can't.
So the Panthers are going to.
It's like getting Zoe's character and putting it into Bam.
Yeah,
that's what you need.
Exactly. They need, and they could bring in like another like Mike Hoffman type player. Just bring in somebody who's got a great shot. Maybe doesn't do a whole lot else, but you just need somebody that's going to fire the puck on net.
Well, I think
it won't cost you much to find a player that's that one-dimensional.
I'd like for him to be also a passer, because I think there has to be a give and go too. It can't be like when it ends on his stick, it's always going to be a shot, because then it becomes a little too predictable. I'd like a guy that can work with them too at the same time, because remember, passing it back to Barkov isn't a bad thing either. If he's got an open shot, you know what I'm saying?
I think you're cherry picking fantasy attributes now, though.
Yeah, I know. I just want a nasty guy next to. I just want a guy that everybody looks at and they're scared shitless of him every night when they face him. You know what I mean? And I don't think we have that mother effer on the ice right now. And I think that's the one thing and by the way, talk about crossing that threshold. That's the other thing that would really also help out with the fans, is that guy that is just so magnetic that he's Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? That he's, Jimmy Butler or whatever, but he's that guy that is just electrifying your team, and like Pavel Bore had that buzz. He just had that buzz with him. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I just keep going back to Barkov because, like, if you think about it, during the season, there have been plays that he's made that end up on all the highlight reels.
Yes.
He's just got to do that all the time, and that's kind of he's the closest thing they have to a superstar right now. Huberdeau had a great year, but Sasha Barkov is on another planet.
Yes.
He's the guy.
Yes.
And he's still, what, 28, 27? So, and he has gotten a little bit more alpha. He's not there yet, but he has gotten a little bit more. So maybe he's going to keep on that path.
How long, bro? How long? You're either alpha or you're not.
Yeah.
This is why when people tell me, well, LeBron and Michael, F out of here, bro, with this LeBron crap. Michael was an alpha when he was in North Carolina.
Michael was a killer.
Michael was a killer in North Carolina, off the key. Bam, big shot, championship, over. That's what he was from the game. LeBron had to come to Miami to learn how to be that alpha, and it took Game 6 in that Celtics series.
Maybe we can send Pat Riley up to talk to Barkov.
That's why it's either you have it or you don't, and that's what Bam, Barkov, and Hubie. For me, it's all three of those guys. They're all the same dudes. Really talented, but they frustrate me because they're too nice. All three of them.
No. Magic figured it out, so maybe Sasha can too.
Yeah, man. I need a little some bitch in you, man.
Barkov needs his Larry Bird. He needs somebody to put a spur under his saddle, and you know what I mean? Like, sometimes anger is the best remedy for that.
Yeah. No doubt about that. All right, what are you working at PLG and Chirping the Cats podcast? Tell them about it.
Yeah, I just put out the new Chirping the Cats pod the other day with Aaron Brown from the Hockey News. It's like an hour-long podcast, maybe more. We just kind of dived into like a lot of the stuff that you and I just talked about. Coaching situation, Bob's season, power play, what's going to happen with Bruno. I mean, just a beautiful long conversation with my good friend Aaron. So if you're a Panther fan, kind of compressing on the season, that's a good spot to start as we covered so many topics.
There you go. And follow him on Twitter at David Dwork. David, as always, thank you, my brother. We'll catch up next week.
See you then, man. Be well.
You got it. There you go. It is the lockdown segment 24 hours a day. You can call LennyLocksmith.com anywhere in South Florida, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties, and also in Tampa and Orlando. Our friends there in the Central Florida area. Even you Lightning fans, we can take care of you there. You Magic fans, we can take care of you there at LennyLocksmith.com. We also have a location in Phoenix, Arizona. Other locations to come. We'll keep you updated with that. LennyLocksmith.com. That is your lockdown segment.